Konnichiwa. Today we're going to talk about something that several people have asked me to clarify, and that is the noun teki. Now this is a noun, but its main function, when it's pronounced teki, is to be added to other nouns, so it works essentially like a suffix. Once it's been added, the whole entity essentially becomes an adjectival noun, so it can take na and da. Now, this can be confusing, partly because of the way the English dictionaries express it, although it's probably the only way they could express it without going into much more detail. They say that it means the English suffixes ikal, if, al, ik, e, etc. It also says that it means things like in terms of, for, from the viewpoint of, from an X standpoint, as far as X is concerned, etc. So what does all this actually mean? We seem to have a bit of a mess here in a way, don't we? But in fact, it's very straightforward. What teki does is one thing and one thing only, and that is that it makes an adjectival noun out of a regular noun. But the important thing to understand here is that it properly only works with abstract nouns, nouns that represent ideas and abstractions, rather than, say, things or animals. Now, you will, in some cases, see it used with non-abstract nouns in a loose way to mean like or kind of or something like that, but these are colloquial uses, and really once you get the real use, you can understand how it can sometimes get used colloquially in ways that aren't really strictly the way it should be used. So let's look at teki as it really is, as it properly works. First of all, the fact that it replaces so many English suffixes is not a cause for confusion. Rather the opposite. It shows the wonderful Lego-like structure of Japanese. English has all these strategies and quite a few more, because it does things other than just replacing those suffixes. And all these structures are essentially making abstract concepts into adjectival nouns. Japanese has this one strategy for all of them, so we don't have to remember lots of different suffixes, and we don't have to remember the other stuff either. All we have to know is how teki actually works in Japanese. And the fact that it has this power means that it's making an awful lot of the abstract adjectival terms in the language, which again is a blessing, because once we know how it works, we have the key to a whole range of relatively abstract vocabulary. So, for example, science is kagaku, so the corresponding adjective in English scientific is kagaku teki. History is rekishi, so the corresponding adjective in English historical is rekishi teki. Heredity is iden, so the corresponding adjective in English hereditary is iden teki. And we also have words that do not follow this pattern in English. For example, kando is the state of being deeply moved emotionally, and kando teki is used of something that arouses that emotion in us. So if we see a moving anime or a song or something that moves us deeply, we say that it's kando teki. So this is all very straightforward, isn't it? So how do we get from this to this whole set of meanings like of, for, from the viewpoint of, from a standpoint of X, as far as X is concerned, and all that sort of thing? Well, again, the answer is very simple. If we add to teki ni, or ni wa, we are essentially turning our adjectival noun into an adverb. And we know that ni does that with adjectival nouns all the time. So, kagaku, science, becomes kagaku teki, scientific, and kagaku teki ni gives us scientifically. So we can say, tenki wa kagaku teki ni yohou sareru. The weather is forecast scientifically. Rekishi, history, becomes Rekishiteki, historical. Rekishiteki ni means historically. So, それは歴史的に興味深い. This is interesting historically. Law in Japanese is 法律. So, 法律的 means legal. And 法律的に means legally. So, you can say すべての人間は法律的には対等である. All human beings are legally equal. And this is a very flexible, very versatile construction that can be used in all kinds of cases. For example, one thing that one of the people who asked me about teki talked about was, well, I can't see how teki can be added to shorai. Shorai means future. What does shorai teki mean? Well, we don't have any such word in English. Futurish, futurishly, or something like that. Doesn't exist in English, but it can exist in Japanese because we don't have to have special words with special suffixes to do this. We can attach teki to any abstract noun within reason. So, when we attach teki to shorai, we can say something like, shorai teki ni ryugaku o kangaeteiru. And the only way of translating this into English is to say, I'm thinking about studying abroad in the future. But in Japanese, what we're really saying is, I'm thinking futurishly about studying abroad. So it's important to look out for this kind of construction because it doesn't have an English counterpart. But in fact, it works exactly the same as rekishiteki ni or horitsu-teki ni. It's less technical sounding, but it works in exactly the same way. If you have any teki usages that you find difficult, please put them in the comments below and we'll take a look at them. And if you have any other questions or comments, please put them in the comments below and I will answer as usual. I'd like to thank my Gold Kokeshi patrons, my producer angels who make these videos possible, and all my patrons and supporters on Patreon and everywhere. And all of you who like the videos, comment on the videos, or just watch the videos, especially you for attending this lesson right now. Thank you all for helping to make this possible, for helping us to uncover the underlying logic of Japanese instead of looking at it all in terms of English equivalents, which tends to lead to considerable confusion in many cases. これからもよろしくお願いします。Class dismissed.